Hello. How is everyone doing? Doing all right? Good. That's what I like to hear. I'm doing very well. It's raining right now. It's the second time today it's raining. And just a few minutes ago I thought, why not take some time and go over a couple of quotes from the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius that I was reading from the Penguin Classics just a couple of days ago, and elaborate on a couple of those quotes. I will put those quotes on the screen, and you will be able to follow along the quote, but not what I am to say about it. I don't know what I will be saying about it because this is unscripted. So whatever I will be saying, or if I go silent in between, then that would be unrehearsed and spontaneous. So let me first read to you both the quotes, and then we'll take them one by one. So the first quote is, "So we must have a sense of urgency, not only for the ever closer approach of death, but also because our comprehension of the world and our ability to pay proper attention will fade before we do." And the second quote is, "What if it then? You embarked, you set sail, you made port. Go ashore now. If it is to another life, nothing is empty of the gods, even on that shore. And if to insensibility you will cease to suffer pains and pleasures, no longer enthralled to a bodily vessel, which is a master as far inferior as its servant is superior. One is mind and divinity, the other a clay of dust and blood. A clay of dust and blood." That is what Marcus Aurelius wrote. So let's look at the very first quote. I'll read it one more time. This is from Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. In the Kindle edition, it shows as page 22. "So we must have a sense of urgency, not only for the ever closer approach of death, but also because our comprehension of the world and our ability to pay proper attention will fade before we do." Now, because we know what both these quotes are, and the reading that I did just a couple of days back, Marcus is a very keen observer of life, of nature, of the natural processes, and of those we hold in high esteem. Those he might have held in high esteem as well, and he names some of those individuals, such as Socrates was mentioned there, and Julius Caesar is mentioned there. But what can we learn from this meditation of Marcus Aurelius? He says we must have a sense of urgency, not only for the ever closer approach of death, but also because our comprehension of the world and our ability to pay proper attention will fade before we do. So, reading these words, we get the distinct understanding that Marcus was always aware of the constant decline, the entropy that a human's life is subjected to. Is this a pessimistic viewpoint? No, it is not. It's not pessimistic. It is realistic. And when he speaks about a sense of urgency, if a person keeps in mind that life can end at any time, this is something great thinkers never took for granted, that death can approach at any moment. And that gave meaning to their life, meaning to the way they lived, because they knew that their time is short and that they must accomplish what they understood to be their purpose in life. Now, some people have the understanding that they are born with a purpose. And yes, when you do look at the lives of some individuals, you do get that impression that they were born with a certain purpose. It could be a sportsman. There is one man, and he's very fond of a certain sport. And right from the start, he gravitated toward that sport. He enjoyed other sports as well, but this was the game, the sport that he enjoyed. And when he himself started to play in that sport, everyone around could see that he was absolutely a natural in that particular sport. The way his body is built, how tall he is, his muscles, his structure was perfectly suited for that sport. And had he been in another sport, he would have appeared ordinary or even below ordinary. But in this particular sport that requires of him to move quickly, to change direction, to have flexibility and agility, he is just perfect for this sport. But a lot of things have to happen. He has to get good guidance, good coaching for him to develop his game. And it so happens that he does get good guidance and he gets support. It's one thing to enjoy a sport, and it's totally another thing to make it a profession. And one has to go through a lot of stages to get to the point where one can professionally play a sport. But this person, this man, let's say, continues to get that support. And it's like the universe comes together to lead him on in that direction. He is gifted, he enjoys the sport, others are supportive, and he can play professionally. And everything is coming together and continues to support him in this direction. And when you look back at the achievements of this person and the way he has lived his life dedicated to this one sport, you get the distinct impression he was born for this sport, for this game. And why did he have a sense of urgency? Was he thinking about death? Not necessarily. He was thinking about the other part. The other part that says in this quote, our ability, not even just to say to pay proper attention, because Marcus is talking about the mental faculties of an individual. But mental faculties don't work in isolation to the body. As the body continues to deteriorate, The ability to pay attention is affected by aches and pains and injuries and things of this nature. But a sportsman, like the example we took, needs to have his mind and his body both to serve him. If his mind starts to give out and he cannot concentrate on his sport and he cannot enjoy his sport, then even if he has the physical fitness, he will not be able to give that level of performance at a competitive level. Now, of course, if his body is not in a good condition and his mind is just fine, then again, he will not be able to give that level of performance as a competitive sportsman is expected to, and he expects of himself. So about the sense of urgency, two things, definitely. The greater motivation is the approach of death. There's an urgency because that is unpredictable. Doesn't mean a person is living in fear of death. Wise men don't live in fear of death. They cherish life. They love life. That is how they live their life. But they're always aware that death can come at any time. It's always drawing closer. And the other, the ability to pay proper attention will fade before we do. Now, a lot of people, a lot of human beings, they linger on in a state where they no longer enjoy life. Whether it's because of old age or it's because of illness, they no longer have the ability to enjoy life as they did when they were younger and healthy and fit. So before one gets into that state and remains in that state till the time of death, a person is wise to use the time he has right now, the present. The past is gone. There is nothing you can do to change the past. This is something a person has to accept. There's absolutely nothing that the strongest and the wisest person can do to change the past. One can learn lessons. One must learn lessons. But one has to live in the present and always be contributing towards the future, his own and others. And that is a meaningful life. This way of forward momentum that brings purpose, that brings pleasure, that brings challenge, that brings meaning to one's personal existence. And this fulfilling life makes a person such that he is not afraid of death because he knows he has the satisfaction that he is doing what needs to be done before death approaches. The second quote that we are going to look at talks about the afterlife. The quote reads, "What of it then? You embarked, you set sail, you made port. Go ashore now. If it is to another life, nothing is empty of the gods, even on that shore. And if to insensibility you will cease to suffer pains and pleasures, no longer enthralled to a bodily vessel which is a master as far inferior as its servant is superior. One is mind and divinity, the other a clay of dust and blood." You understand what Marcus is saying is that according to his view, his understanding, let's be open to both eventualities. Let's say there is an afterlife. And We believe there is an afterlife because of the life that we see right now. And it is on the life that we see right now that we build our understanding of the afterlife, that it will be, or it can be, something a lot more beautiful, a lot more enjoyable than this life is. Because the gods are able to do a lot more than what we see on this earth. So in another realm where a person reaches after he gives up this physical body, in that realm there will be a life that can be a lot superior to the life that we enjoy or experience now. But he's also accepting the other eventuality. Suppose after death a human being loses all consciousness and nothing remains. And if to insensibility a person returns, you will cease to suffer pains and pleasures. That is what Marcus is saying. There is no pain after death, and there is no pleasure after death. Mind you, he's not talking about hell that people talk of, a place of eternal torment. He thinks of afterlife in terms of something superior to what we can experience now. Or an absence of pains and pleasures, no consciousness, a non-existence. But we have to appreciate the conclusion that he is giving as he compares the body to the mind. In the mind, or from the mind, we see the evidence of divinity in human beings. But when you look at the body, what you see is a clay of dust and blood. That is how inferior the human body is to the human mind. So, looking at things the way Marcus did, we do get a better understanding of our existence and what should take precedence in our life. It's the pursuits of the mind, of the spirit, the higher pursuits that should take precedence in our life. The physical pursuits are lower pursuits, and they are transient. But even if we say that the mental and the spiritual pursuits are transient, still the mental and spiritual pursuits are the evidence of divinity. They will always be at a higher level than the pursuits one can aspire for the physical body. This is the consideration that I wish to go through, and I'm pleased to have covered this. There is, as I mentioned, no script. It was unrehearsed. And as I can see, we are approaching 20 minutes. So I'm very glad to have spent this time. And I hope that you will benefit when you listen to my consideration of these two meditations of Marcus Aurelius. And even today we can still thank Marcus Aurelius for writing down these meditations so people can benefit after all these years. Thank you very much for your company. I'll see you another time. Goodbye and take care.